Welcome. My name is Lauren Chan. I have learned so much from my Bioethics, Disability, and Community course. The following is a snippet of synthesis of the material. Hope you enjoy. As a disclaimer, all of the images used belong to their respective companies and organizations and are not my own. Autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, is a developmental disorder that affects 1 in 68 children. It is about 4.5 times more prevalent in males than females. Surprising, I know. Individuals on the spectrum tend to have difficulty socializing and communicating with others. While many tend to associate autism with being a savant, such as Rain Man, it is more common for individuals on the spectrum to have cognitive deficiencies. Autism is a disorder close to my heart because my younger brother is on the spectrum. We have a strong and close relationship, but even I have wondered about answers to the how and why. I've never wanted my brother to change, instead only to grow. However, there are moments when I have been curious about the origins of the disorder and what I can do to help further his growth. When it comes to autism and other developmental disabilities, parents and caregivers immediately ask questions along the lines of, what is wrong with my child? What caused them to be this way? How do I fix or cure my child? This string of questions is not very different from what a parent or caregiver might ask if their child incurred a short-term physical injury and ended up in the emergency room. For instance, a broken arm or leg. What is wrong with my child? What happened to them? How can they heal faster or sooner? It is natural instinct for our first thoughts to be that there is something wrong with the child. We inquire about cause and want to find a solution that will lessen or eliminate the problem. This follows the medical model of disability, which is quick to assume that the problem inherently lies within the child, and that by changing the child, the problem will be solved. The issue of thinking this way is that the child is not to blame. The cause is not always clear-cut, and a solution does not necessarily have to be a fix or a cure. For a while, there had been speculation that vaccines may be the cause of autism. This escalated in 1998 when news broke that Andrew Wakefield had found the cause of autism: vaccines! More specifically, the MMR vaccine for mumps, measles, and rubella. Vaccines? The very thing that was supposed to prevent against other diseases was causing autism? In his co-authored study, Wakefield noted the onset of autism and other gastrointestinal issues in 12 children subsequent to them receiving the MMR vaccine. This, of course, sent the media, parents, and caregivers into a frenzy. Given that a physician and researcher was the one releasing such statements, and that an experimental study had been done, members of the public suddenly jumped on the anti-vaccine bandwagon. I am sure that there were parents who were skeptical of vaccines and/or did not see the point in them even before this story was released. It was revealed in 2010 that Wakefield had falsified the data of his study and that there was no concrete evidence to support his claims. By this time, though, damage had already been done. Many parents who were following the news story either were not aware that the claims were retracted or were still convinced that vaccines were the cause, even with the false data update. To me, this incident said a lot. For one, it showed how influential a single person, especially if regarded to have authority, as well as media reporting, can be in directing and skewing opinions. This is a crucial consideration of our analysis of new revelations in the field of developmental disorders and all other research. We should read headlines with a grain of salt and ask deeper questions about research methods and replication of results. The incident also raised the issue of choice. While vaccines are not quite the same as sexuality or perceived as extreme as the Ashley case, the same question of need, right, or privilege that was posed in class could be asked of vaccines. Typically, vaccines are viewed as being beneficial because they shield against disease. In getting vaccinated, one is not just aiding in ensuring their own health, but the health of others around them too. For this reason, before children are able to go to school, they have to get certain vaccinations. Yet not everyone views vaccines in such a positive way. Physicians can receive pushback from patients who refuse vaccines on behalf of their children or for themselves. This begs the question of whether or not we should and can force individuals to get vaccinated, and whether or not doing so imposes on people's rights to choose. Personally, I believe that certain vaccinations should be mandatory. Nonetheless, I think that physicians and healthcare informants can do a better job of explaining what each vaccination is for and any potential side effects. There exist some vaccines like Gardasil for HPV that are optional based on lifestyle patterns and risk, though many of these vaccines are still highly recommended. Having the power of choice is representative of parents' freedom to raise their children as they see fit. Parents will get a lot of advice from all different people who think that they know what is best for others' children and their families. Even if they have the best intentions, what works for one family may not work for someone else's. Thirdly, it demonstrated how hasty we are to find the origins of autism and its cure. Society tends to have a stigma against and not be well equipped to handle disability. We saw this in class in a physical sense as we did our walk around the Health Sciences Center. We also saw this in a consciousness sense. Even those of us who claim to be well-versed and supportive of the disability community tend to score as being highly in favor of the abled over the disabled on implicit bias tests. We cannot deny the historical tie that bioethics and views on disability have to the eugenics movement started in the early 1900s. Philosophers such as Peter Singer and Jeff McMahon continue to argue that the quality of life has everything to do with level of cognition. In spite of this, there are others like Eva Kittay who are fighting in support of the opposite. Kittay argues that normal is subjective and that every child is someone's child who deserves to be given a fair chance. Love and acceptance can do wonders to make a quality of life worth living for the disabled. Given my appreciation for food shopping, I will give an analogy to a grocery store. Just because a grocery store does not have an item in stock does not mean that the store has to be closed and not in operation. The store can still be open and function for customers. If the out-of-stock item is of necessity to a customer, they can try to find alternatives. The same applies to autism. While an individual with autism may appear to be deficient in certain areas of the norm, they can still be content and functional individuals. It is society that views their situation negatively, as if something is missing and nothing can be done. This is the perspective that we need to change. There is certainly nothing wrong with wanting to find cause and cure for autism. We surely have a need for individuals who are willing to devote time, effort, and resources to this, but there is a great deal that can be done that is not necessarily research. We can change the ways in which we respond to others at the store when they ask why we cannot make our children be quiet or stop throwing tantrums. We can change the ways in which we stand up for our children to make sure that they have equal access to education and other opportunities. There is so much more that we can do. Therefore, while I think that the medical model is important for how we handle certain aspects of health, it should not act alone when it comes to disability. I am in greater favor of applying the social model to disability, as many more people in the field are. This model looks less towards individuals as being responsible for their own disability, and more towards society as being responsible to change its views and provide accommodations. Society should not just look at this relationship as giving and not receiving. Rather, it is a give-and-take relationship. Jean Vanier's principles and large communities are prime examples of how much society can learn and gain from the disabled. My brother has been fortunate enough to have attended academic programs that were geared towards addressing his needs. As a sister and volunteer at some of these programs, I have seen what a positive difference supportive communities can make on the disabled individual and caregivers or others around them. We need more groups like L'Arche and schools like my brother's that provide the disabled with a sense of pride and self-worth and inspire others to have more tolerance. While we should be hopeful that the cause of autism and other developmental disabilities can be found, we should not rely solely on this. We need to be cautious of single-handed claims, as was seen with vaccines, and take action to help disabled individuals in other ways. In class, Dr. Stephen Post discussed how to reach those with Alzheimer's through art and music. We can do the same with those with developmental disabilities, like autism. We should be reaching in, instead of waiting for these individuals to reach out. Thank you for taking the time to listen.